but Joseph's been talking about this idea for a long time now, and he went and got some great support from the city of Los Angeles. I want to say historical. No? Okay.
Cultural.
Cultural. Right.
There we go.
I'm just going to bring you up. Ladies and gentlemen, the author of Empty the Sun, editor of the Speed Chronicles, Eat Hell, and Hexaco, Joseph Mattson.
Thanks, Tyson. Thank you, Stories Books. Don't forget to go in there and buy some stuff. I'm going to read, yes, from a novel in progress called Hexaco, which surmises that the Mexican-American War never happened, and the Mexican cession of the southern or southwestern states of 1848 never happened, and the United States western border is the eastern slopes of the Continental Divide. So the border isn't the desert Southwest, it's the whole Continental Divide. Los Angeles is the capital of Mexico. Arizona, New Mexico, Nevada, and Arizona are all part of Mexico. Idaho, Oregon, Washington are a part of New Russia, which was actually sort of oddly hoped for by our once enemies and now friends. In this landscape, which takes place in the now, a ex-circus strongman slash transvestite prostitute is on the run to Hexaco. Hexaco is the strip of land that divides the two countries because the Continental Divide is so varied in its elevation and topography. It's sort of a lawless zone, like an interzone between the two, almost a country unto itself, except it's ungovernable. And she has experienced a sort of automated, natural sex change, like a fish or an amphibian or a reptile might. So she's a transvestite that is a transvestite by biology. And she's impregnated by a chupacabra. And a detective is following her for his own sordid reasons, and I'll just leave it at that. And this is a spot where he gets stuck in his search for her. This little section is looking for Lupita. The following is based on a diary found on July 29, 2011 in room 109 at the Days Inn in Van Horn, West Texas Territory, population 2,435. After a hot Lone Star haul from Flatonia, Texas, 519 miles, 8.5 hours at 105 degrees Fahrenheit, I'd laid myself back on the twin bed by the window and told myself to forget about Juarez, to forget about Hexaco, never going back again. But Hexaco lives in the darker spaces, Hexaco lives beneath the eyelids, and so it's ever more sad, truer. You just can't leave. Nothing doing in the moment but to let it dissolve into the outer space of the motel room. There I discovered on the ceiling a constellation of blood in the shape of Virgo, a lovely bloom I immediately recognized as having been shot from a syringe. And so Hexaco hibernates beneath heavens of quietus. The room felt like heroin, relief, and then jaundiced. I rose from the bed, and between the headboard and the mattress, I found the small black notebook stuck to the wall with a Gerber hunting blade, which also had blood on it. The narrative in the notebook was broken, which is to say, both incomplete and sad. Of course she wasn't 18, but we weren't to the border yet. In El Paso, I'd have to kiss her goodbye gently on the cheek, a father losing his jewel, his worth, his legacy, rather than the hangdog dog, strung out reprobate I'd become, pretending to find religion between the girl's legs. It's either that or it's love, simply because the law down here, or the lack of law, bends to anatomy that can outrun birthdays like a trans-Pecos puma on jackalope. In Juarez, 16 is 21, so roll the dice, muchacho. Welcome to Hexaco. The white Texans call it El Paso on the left hand, Juarez City on the right. The brown Texans don't call it anything. We FedEx drivers call it Hexaco, depending on what side of the Rio the delivery is on. Rio Grande equals Hexaco Minor if Del Norte. Rio Bravo del Norte equals Hexaco Major on Del Sur. Just plain Hexaco in either direction, if you err, say, on the side of prostitutes over politicians. Sorry, I just came from a reading where I read for like 25 minutes. It was Lobita's idea to ball up the bulk of the tar, grease our digits, 1 index each, and then 2 for me, and she wanted 3, so delicious. And with the patient tenderness of some damn kind of love, bend over in our sex and finger it into each other's assholes, and then get in the van for El Paso. For Van Horn, Texas, really. And who can say no to Chaparrita Loba, Lil Wolf, she said when I bought her, and it was all over. She was 1,000 hexacos wrapped in one heavenly little chocolate bar, which is to say the kind of trouble I cannot deny, which might mean love and not religion after all. I'd never been in love with an underage girl before, not even when I myself was underage, and Lobita, 17 going on 30, had ground me into so much tender meat. 3 weeks in Juarez with Lobita, 3 weeks in Hexaco with the she-wolf. How not to think of scores of Lobitas down the line, the taboo muse and master in our collective criminal consciousness. Listen, when I say 17 is far different, far away from 12. 5 years to be exact. Lobita kept her skirt hiked and skated her fingers, tiny ice dancers across the heat of her white cotton panties, all through the miles of monolithic sand-colored hills, to the bridge of the Americas, out toward the brutal freedom beyond. And tar or no tar, the fire in my own pants obeys the laws of nature. With tar, my prostate quivered its own little beautiful death. Crime is cream in the coffee to both to the U.S. Customs and Border Protection authorities. My bronze Lobita in my white FedEx van with white knuckles on the wheel, brown tongue circling her brown lips, my white tongue clicking the transcontinental languages of hopeful veins. Unlike some other places that advertise sin, what happens in Juarez does not stay in Juarez. We had a plan for the checkpoint. Fake FedEx training documents, because when it absolutely positively needs to be there overnight, go FedEx. I bent to remind my wee wolf that getting over the Rio meant slipping a corporate polo over her tank top, but when I moved to speak, she was gone. Smoke. Only the faint stain of her sex lingered on the seat. And when it was my turn at the gate, no forged training documents were on my clipboard, only the delivery record for the Cali and Pier Station and return drop slips for El Paso. The golden hope emanating from my rectum grew dim, and I knew that my eyeballs were yellow. I stared at the index and middle finger of my left hand and dreamt of feminine Mexican technique, while a few droplets of blood dried in my underwear, and the CBP agent checked me through. My fingers were filthy, nothing sweet, nothing rich, no trace of Lobita beneath the fingernails. Mechanic's hands, desperate to keep the wreck moving. That was all. It always happens like this. I am stuck in a time loop, looking for Lobita. Who knows how long it has been? Last seen 3 weeks ago, and the 3 weeks before that, and the 3 weeks before that, and the 3 weeks before that. Ad nauseum, ad infinitum. I picked her up at the Plateau truck stop shop in Van Horn, Texas 3 years ago on my way to Juarez City. She wasn't a lot lizard, but there was something about the way she sat on the curb. Her arms and legs were never in symmetry, never at rest, each impatient and stretching, magnetic towards some individual, indivisible aim, only to tangle one another up short of victory. A brown octopus, quick and scheming, loaded by wits, determination, and destroyed by the acquiescent willingness to come out of the dark for her keepers in order to win little bits of foodstuff and other assured delicacies, at the expense of dancing for ticket holders and supplying the sacred ink to get through the day. She knew what work was and when it was necessary. I found her sitting against the archaic ruins of a payphone, looking like a displaced East LA chola, both vulnerable and strong, holding her right thumb out but gazing toward the neon orange enamel down on the fingernails of her left hand as if she could take it or leave it. She could have been 15, she could have been 20. When she got into the van, she was so beautiful that I thought she was a transvestite. The freckles on her face could drive 1,000 donkeys. By the time we left the Zona de Tolerancia 3 weeks later, I was an empire of mud and bound. Lobita and I parted after crossing into El Paso so I could work my route to meet again in Van Horn, where my little she-wolf gets full moon fever and has to return. Now, I will follow her trail by the red bloom. The red bloom, motel ceilings, and miles, the world on time. A fragmented little oracle in my spoon, this last shot. But it's enough to know there is no West Texas territory. That the heart is an ideogram and that love is a concept, like religion, that we are merely begging ceaselessly to smash the terrible cast that keeps our being in a perpetual state of brokenness, in need of constant repair for which there is no final solution. For death is cake and death is cola, but death is not the panacea. And God gives AIDS to little kittens and beautiful Tijuana whores. We buy and we chase enough relief to hoist the bag of bones for another day. And so Lobita, oh my little wolf, is the soothing syrup to replace the elixir that never was and never is and never will be. Tie a few condoms together and dream of Juarez. You are in Juarez. You are a long way from Juarez. There is no Juarez. There is only Hexaco. Relax. It's FedEx. The rubbers court the vein and then the plunge, and here on this desert, you can almost see her. A she-wolf of age turns her head ever so slightly at the sound of some aching plea on the high plateau wind, sniffs the air, and then turns toward the Sierra Diablo Mountains and disappears. Above the dissolve, there is only this. Room 109, Days Inn, Van Horn, West Texas Territory, population 2,436. Follow the bloom. I closed the diary feeling that I alone knew too well what was unwritten. The book is missing some pages, drops of red at the tear on the seam. Connect the dots in the red above. Virgo waiting for the blackout. The diary back under the blade returned into the wall. The diary and the Gerber now live beneath my eyelids, weeks upon weeks, forever revolving and loading. I see it alone. Not being alone is the worst kind of loneliness. I have stopped here to remind you, we are all looking for Lobita, for only sadness can cure sadness. Thank you.